I'm Robert with Knowmium, and today I'm talking about team management systems and their team management profile. As an organization, team management systems has been around for over 30 years, since 1984, and their profiles have been completed by over 2 million people in 190 different countries. Many of their profiles are also available in various languages. As an organization, team management systems has 4 profiles that help business leaders and employees understand themselves and their team members. They have the team management profile, they have the opportunities and obstacles profile, they have the window on work values profile, and finally they have the linking leader profile 360. Most people familiar with team management systems are familiar with the team management profile. It's their most popular profile, and even if people take one of the other 3 profiles, they likely started with the team management profile, and that's what I'll spend my time on today. I'd like to share 5 things in this video. First, an example story of how the team management profile helps individuals and teams. I'll quickly talk about team management systems and their history. Then I'll dive into the team management profile and some specifics about it. Then at the end, I'll talk about resources provided by team management systems, as well as how we at Knowmium connect team management systems profiles with other programs that we run for our clients. So first, a story. Imagine an employee named Caroline, who's a morning person. She likes to drink tea in the morning, and she likes to communicate, but she's relatively quiet. She won't be the first person to speak in a meeting, and if she does speak, she prefers to talk one-on-one or even send emails. If you see Caroline in her office, she's probably reading a book or doing research on the internet, and she likes to propose big ideas and new visions for potential projects. Now let's compare Caroline with Jack. Jack is an afternoon person. You can often see him drinking coffee, and when he talks in meetings, he's often the first to talk, and he likes visiting people in their office to have discussions instead of sending emails. Jack loves discussing plans and projects, and he loves discussing how we implement those on the ground. Now, everybody has different styles of work, and everybody has different styles of communication. Jack and Caroline get along, usually. They are in the same team, and they're working for the same goals in the same organization, but you can see how they are different. Where Caroline sends an email, Jack will come into her office and reply in person. When Caroline approaches Jack, it's usually in the morning when Jack's still super tired, and when Jack talks to Caroline, it's usually in the afternoon. Now, even though they get along and they respect each other, there is sometimes conflict. When Caroline talks about big ideas and visions for new projects, Jack says, "But how do we implement it on the ground?" And when Jack talks about things he'd like employees to do with clients, Caroline says, "But where is the vision? Where is this going?" And even though they do usually get along, their different ideas and their different styles of work and their different styles of communication can lead to conflict. Caroline and Jack's team leader said, "Let's get through some of these conflicts by having all of our team members take a team management profile," and they had a team management systems facilitator come into their team to introduce team management systems, to introduce the team management profile, and most importantly, giving the employees and team members an opportunity to discuss their profiles, to discuss their results, to discuss their preferences on what they like to do at work and how they like to communicate, and also what they don't like. The goal was helping everyone be more collaborative, more productive, and avoid some of those pet peeves that everybody has. Now, as an organization, Team Management Systems was founded by Margerison and McCann. They were a psychologist and an engineer. Now, the psychologist said, "I want to understand why people work differently, why people have different preferences for their duties, why people communicate in certain ways." And the engineer said, "That's wonderful, but what does it mean on the ground? How do we implement these ideas? How can we get people to understand the why and take action with the how? Now, team management systems has different research reports that they publish over time and they update, and the current one takes results from 590,000 people. And they look at different demographics, gender, age, they look at different industries, and they like to find the trends. But ultimately, the team management profile is about the individual. We can look at how most people like to work if they work in banking, but the profile will let individuals know their possible preferences, and we'll talk about those preferences in just a moment. The team management profile is also backed up by the British Psychological Society, and it is one of the most valid assessment tools on the market today. Individuals, teams, and companies use the team management profile in different ways. Individuals use it to understand their preferences of how they like to work and communicate. Teams use it, like Jack and Caroline's team did, where they talk about their results. They talk about how they like to work and how they like to communicate, and hopefully making everybody happier and more collaborative when they're working on projects together. Companies also use the team management profile sometimes to hire, sometimes to give promotions, or to find different positions for people. Some teams need somebody who's very innovative, and some teams need somebody who works very well with clients on the ground, and the team management profile might give companies and teams and individuals insight into who might fit into those positions. Now, I talked about preferences, not abilities. And the example I like to use in a team management profile workshop is riding a bicycle and driving a car. All of us can learn to ride a bicycle and all of us can learn to drive a car, and we can get good at both. But if it was a Sunday afternoon and you had a choice to take a leisurely bicycle ride or drive around leisurely in your car, which one would you choose? That's your preference, not your ability. And the team management profile specifics I'll discuss next focus on preferences, possible preferences, not abilities. When we get our team management profile reports, we have to interpret them for ourselves. And we have to apply our experience and our knowledge about ourselves to say, yes, I agree with that profile result, or maybe there are some specifics in the profile that don't really fit me. So one of the first things that the team management profile lets employees and teams know are work preferences. We often call this the RIDO scale. RIDO stands for relationships, information, decisions, and organization. In a relationship, some people are extrovert, like Jack, and some people are introvert, like Caroline. When people have and use information, they might use it very practically, and they might use it very creatively. Some people like to be on the ground using information, dealing with other people, and other people like to be more creative and innovative with it. How do people make decisions? Are they very analytical and objective, or do they bring some beliefs and ethics into their decision making? And finally, how do people organize themselves, their projects, their teams? Are they very structured, or are they very flexible? Now, most people fall somewhere between these two poles. Just because someone's an extrovert doesn't mean they're always an extrovert. There are times they may be quiet. And just because somebody's very creative and innovative with their information doesn't mean they're not practical with it. So again, preferences, not abilities. One of the great things we see in the team management profile workshops is getting people to line up and take a look at a wall, make the wall a scale, and line up with a group. Where do you fit on the introvert-extrovert scale? Where do you fit on the structured and flexible scale? And we can look around at our colleagues and say, it's starting to make sense now. Now, the second thing the team management profile gives is the types of work wheel. This shows people possible preferences of the types of work they like to do. Now, there's 8 components, and these lead into the final piece of the team management profile, so I'll explain these very briefly. Let's imagine there's a bank, and the bank wants to enter a new market. Well, if we start with advising, somebody does research and they advise their team about market research and entering that new region or that new country. Then somebody takes that research and they start innovating ideas. They start innovating projects or innovating where the bank could be or what they could offer. And then They share those ideas with the team, and somebody says, "Hey, I want to promote one of those ideas. I want to go get some buy-in from some of our corporate leaders." And then once one of those projects is greenlit, somebody starts developing it, and they start making strategies and plans, and then they pass that along to somebody who organizes the resources, they organize the team, and then somebody else starts producing those results. They start actually opening the bank and dealing with the customers. But when we finish producing results, we're not done yet. Somebody needs to inspect those results to make sure that they're the results we want and to see if we need to change anything in the way we're doing business in that new region. And over time, let's say 6 months later, somebody needs to continue maintaining those results and making sure that the results we're getting are happening over time. And then we go back to advising and doing more research to see how has the market changed and what new ideas might we need to start innovating. And the circle and the types of work wheel go around and around. Now, we take those 4 work preferences scales and we take the types of work wheel, we put them together, and team management systems focuses on the team management wheel. You'll notice the colors and some of the words in the wheel are very similar to the types of work wheel, but the profile results that we get with the team management wheel are a combination of the work preferences and the types of work wheel together. They let people know their major role and their main preference for working and communicating, and they let them know their related roles. We like to say it's like getting a pizza. You're with your friends, and if you're the first person to take a piece of pizza, you can pick whichever piece you want. But let's say your friend takes the piece that you want, and you take your second or third option. The second and third option would be your related roles, and your major role would be if you got your first choice. Now again, that doesn't mean if you get a major role and related roles on, let's say, the right side of the wheel, that doesn't mean you can't do things on the left side of the wheel. If you're a thruster organizer and you like organizing teams, projects, and people, you may be very adept at researching and advising. It just may not be your main preference, but again, you can interpret that for yourself. Now, in the types of work wheel, and also here in the team management wheel, there's something in the middle called the linker, or linking. And this is all about communication. How do different people with different preferences, how do people with different major roles and different related roles communicate and connect with each other? Because if I'm innovating a new idea, I have to be sure that it makes sense to the people who are producing those results on the ground. If I am maintaining results over time, I have to be sure that when I'm talking with people who are developing these ideas, that we can bridge that gap. If we are on different sides of the team management wheel, there's an important focus on making sure we do understand how the other side thinks, communicates, and likes to work. Now, the 4th thing I'd like to mention today are some of the resources that team management systems provides. Not only when you complete the team management profile do you get a 25-page PDF and you get access to your team management systems facilitator to lead a workshop or to answer your questions or give you some coaching, team management systems provides many, many, many different resources. Some of these are action plans. Some of these are worksheets. Some of these are case studies. You can see the example on the screen is when we're working with reporter advisors. What are some of the tips? So, reporter advisors have different styles of communication. And so when we come to them, how might we communicate and what ideas do we need to use to make sure it's making sense to them? And we could look at any of these roles and take a look at working with thruster organizers as another example. A lot of the other resources that team management systems provides are about team building. How can we have meetings where we focus on a specific color? So if we have 10 people in the meeting and I say, everybody, we're going to take a look at innovating for the next 10 minutes. Everything we discuss is going to be about innovating, and then we'll move on to developing some ideas. And everything we talk about in that 10 minutes will be about developing ideas. It's allowing people to focus on what their major roles might be, but it's also getting other people who are in different parts of the team management wheel to focus on other people's preferences and think from their point of view and to walk in their shoes. And the final thing I'd like to mention today is just an example of what we've done in team management systems workshops, bridging it with other programs and activities that we use at Knowmium. And I will use collaboration. If I work with a team for, let's say, 4 hours in a team management profile debrief, we go through the work preferences, we go through the types of work, and we go through the team management wheel, and we go through linking and communicating. Well, that's great, and we've completed a wonderful workshop. But in the second half of the day, or even if I come back another day, I might run a collaboration program that uses and touches on the team management profile takeaways that we already went through, but we add our own collaboration content. A specific example of this is getting a team communication charter. When we're collaborating within a team, or we have two teams collaborating together, there may be agreements that the team needs to make on how they approach each other and how they communicate. Some people, as I mentioned, like Jack and Caroline, some people like to communicate in the morning, some people like to communicate in the afternoon, some people like to communicate over email, some people like in-person meetings. And if we can get a team to discuss preferences and make a charter or a contract that we can all agree to, it's going to prevent some of the conflict and some of the obstacles that might arise. One example that we've seen is if you send an email after 5 p.m., please don't expect a reply from your teammates before lunch the next day. We know some people might send an email at 6 p.m., and when they get to work at 10 a.m. the next day, they say, "Why haven't my team members replied?" Well, some people aren't morning people, and some people don't like email, so they put it off until lunch. And if we can recognize that, and we can make an agreement that if you send the email after 5 p.m., please wait until lunch before you start hounding me for my reply. This is just a quick example that a team might come up with, and they might make a list of these agreements, and when the team members themselves agree to that, when they've come up with those ideas and they've made that contract themselves and they've agreed to it, there's a better chance they will follow it in the future. And if they have to break some of those rules, they can at least discuss why they're breaking those rules, respecting the contract and respecting each other. I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been a great introduction. The link in the video description is going to give a lot more information if you'd like to dive deeper into team management systems and into some of the other team management systems profiles that we didn't cover in this video. And if you have any questions, Knowmium would love to hear from you.